And welcome everyone to live chess at the Mechanics Institute. This is the Tuesday night marathon, round one, June 1st, 2021. My name is Abel Talamantes, chess director at the Mechanics Institute, and joining me is FIDE master Paul Whitehead in the chess annex. Can you hear
This
me,
is,
Paul?
yeah, I can hear you. This is an incredible moment.
And there's a lot going on. We have I want to say a packed house, but I don't want to cause a panic. It's packed for as much as we could hold under the COVID health and safety plan. 54 players in the TNM. Uh, Very excited. There's a lot of buzz in the air. It was a lot of fun. Before we get to the games, we just thought we'd have a few moments. I'm directing the event along with Judith. There's a lot going on for us in terms of the work we have to do. The main commentary is going to be with three-time U.S. champion Grandmaster Nick DeFermian, who's sitting over here ready to jump in and do the commentary with Paul. But I just wanted to give a special acknowledgement to all the players that stuck with us during the pandemic and played in our online club. Much props to Judith, who right away was instrumental in not just helping transition a lot of our club players to chess.com to join our online community, but she was actually one of the people that was heavily involved in creating the online rules. And create, helping create online ratings and things of that nature. So over a year we've been doing online events and different things. We've been doing our arenas and club matches with other clubs around the world, and our Tuesday night marathon continued on. We never missed a beat. We had chess on Tuesday nights, whether it was rated or unrated. And I remember there was one time, Paul, and I'll never forget this conversation where we were talking, and we were just talking about that day when we would be able to come back to Mechanics Institute and have our first event after all of this was over. And I remember you saying, it's going to be a special day, and I think we felt that today, and I think the players felt that. It's just great to be here, and just an amazing team of people that I work with that made all of this happen. And one last thing before get to your thoughts on all of this is one of the things I was noticing in the institute is there are a lot of lights off at the Mechanics Institute, and you know change is tough, and it's tough to come back and take that first step and have events and offer people things that they want to come back to, or to take that leap, because it's a tough transition to go from everything we've gone through over the past year to try to re-engage back into what was normal, right? Because things are not as they were. But I'm proud that we're taking that step. That we got the lights on. If you look at the Mechanics Institute, there's lights going on. There's an event happening, and pretty soon everyone else is going to be doing the same, and the Mechanics Institute's going to be rocking, providing services, events, libraries open, and I'm just glad we're able to do our part and just have something going on at the Mechanics Institute, and it's really exciting. What do you think, Paul?
I think, your leadership has made it all possible, Abel. I mean, the reason that a lot of this gets done is because of your pushing to get it done. And so the, chess in the Bay Area, chess at the Mechanics Institute, chess in San Francisco, you're leading the way, Abel. And, we're glad to be a part of it. It's incredible. It's incredible to be back here at the club, the physical club, 57 Post Street, downtown San Francisco. There's all these familiar faces in the club. I'm seeing Nick DeFermian for the first time in person for a year plus, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so many familiar faces. It's fun to, and some people that we've only known online. we're seeing them live today,
Yeah.
like the Sebi Meister, Sebi Suarez.
Yeah.
I saw him live. He's playing in here, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so it's just a lot of fun to be here. I'm gonna have Nick join you and get into the games. The game started at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's FIDE rated and USCF rated. It's a game in 2 hours with 5 second delay. So there's plenty of chess still going on. We're not missing a whole lot, and you and Nick will go over all the games. Maybe we'll pop in a little bit later, but I'm going to let you take the seat here and the controls, and Nick will go over, and then you guys will go do the show from there.
And I'm putting my mask on.
Perfect. As we transition. All right. So everyone hang tight while we transition and get everything going.
All right. Bye for now. Right back.
Everything's all set up. You click up here.
Okay.
All right, folks. I'm here with, I assume, Grandmaster Nick DeFermian. And we're going to go straight to the chess here. We're going to go straight to the chess here. I'm assuming everything technically is working fine. We've got on board one, Mark Drury versus Kyron Griffith. Yeah. And okay, I'll be right back. We have technical issues.
Hello, everyone. Just got to fix one thing. You're not gonna.
Mike Walter was talking to me on chat.
Yeah, it's fine.
Go.
I can see it working.
You're not gonna see it. You're gonna see it. Judith's gonna manage the chat. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. Unless.
All right.
But let me tell you.
I'm back, and I assume Nick is here with me. I'm going to have to manipulate the chessboard. I have to manipulate the chessboard.
Yeah, this.
I have to manipulate the chessboard.
The transition to live chess. We see as
Okay. All right.
pandas say we.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm back anyway. And this is Mark Drury versus Kyron Griffith. And Nick and I are sort of in communication with each other, but let me see if I can turn the volume up here so I can hear Nick and not just myself. Nick, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Paul. Can you hear me? I guess not.
Okay. Little technical difficulties here.
I need to be in communication with my grandmaster partner here.
Okay, so
Okay.
Juan's in Dejas is
All right.
improving our system as usual.
I'm going to just take a look here at Mark Drury versus Karen Griffith. And I need some can I get volume? So I can hear, I want to be able to hear Nick.
Can you hear me now,
Yes.
Paul?
But then I'll be lagging. Forget. All right. And I need some can I get volume? All right. Okay, so this is Marjorie versus Karen Griffith. Let's see what's going on in this game. Black is thinking about probably bishop h2 and knight g4 check. Bishop takes g4. If bishop g4, hg, and queen h4, that could be some severe trouble here. I guess on knight g4 I could go back, but then queen h4 still looks like it might be a quite an attack here for black.
Okay,
Bishop
now,
h2 check could very well be the move.
Paul, can you hear me? Because 15 Panda says that they can hear us both.
Juan, can you tell Nick I can't hear him? I can't tell Abel and Nick I cannot hear him. Of course.
I wonder what's wrong because they can hear me.
All right, so I want to switch to the next game.
Paul can't hear me.
I think Nick and I have a bit of an issue here of not being able to quite hear each other. So, but we'll get to that. We'll solve that, folks. Hang in there with us. Okay. So Elliot Winslow is white against women's candidate master Annika Rajaram, and this is looks like a Tamanov Sicilian. Actually, I can play it out from the get-go. And this is a little different than what we've been doing lately, so I've actually got my hand on the controls here. And c5 is a nice move. I like that move. I mean, perhaps black could have thought about playing the bishop back, maybe to e7, or even playing c5 herself at this point. I kind of like c5, and this seems to present black some problems, I would say. And white can gain the two bishops by playing simply a3, or maybe there's something else involved. But I think black maybe slowed her game down a little bit. And that's board 2. And on board 3, we have Gaziz. I'm going to take a break here for just 1 second as I try to overcome a couple of technical difficulties. I'm back.
Just put this. You wanna go back to this?
As long as I can hear Nick, that's the important thing. If I can't hear Nick, then. Okay, Nick, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, Paul.
Okay, I need to be able to hear Nick on Zoom. Yeah, I need to be able to hear Nick on Zoom. All right, but that's not happening right now. Nick, I apologize, I can't hear you on the Zoom. So. We're Nick and I are close together but unable to communicate with each other because of the audio. So I'm not sure how to solve this issue here. Nick and I cannot communicate because I can't hear him. And so.
Yes, camera is frozen.
Stay with us, folks. Let me see if I can get back to the game.
The clock's moving,
No, I'm looking at like your videos.
or? Well, yeah, but that's the video works. The people
Mario,
can
he
hear
can't
us,
hear
but
you.
Paul can't hear us.
And can they hear you?
They can hear me. Yes. Well, folks, it wasn't going to be that easy coming back to live chess, so apologies for the problems, but we'll get it straightened out.
It must be your speaker that on Zoom, maybe?
No, she can.
Can you hear him?
No.
Yeah, that's what I would look at. Can you
Can-
go over to Zoom?
Right. How can I get to?
Zoom. Just click on
No,
it. Like
you're gonna go back
left
to-
click.
He wants to go back to the board to talk about.
But yeah.
I don't know why I can't see this. Yeah, there we go. Nick, can you try talking?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, Rika, well done.
Now we need to go back to the board.
Yeah. Now can we get to the
We want to see
Nope.
not
Board.
not this but
Okay, then here.
that board that
okay.
yes.
the board. So click on the top one.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Incredible technical team here. I am so impressed with people. Nick, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Thanks to Rika and Wanzan Dejas, our technical experts.
Fantastic. I hope people back home are listening to this and haven't abandoned us yet, because we've got some great chess here, hopefully. Nick, I'm going to start at board one again.
Okay, and thank you. Yes, as Jadub says, this is the first time in a year and a half that we've been live, so there
Yeah.
have been
It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it, everybody. All right, so we're looking at Nick. You're seeing Mark Drury versus Kyron Griffith here on board one.
And I think people realize Chiron is having a good time there. He's attacking on the king side. Those uh, white rooks on the queen side, they're just not active yet. And well, black's threatening to win a piece with pawn to g4.
That looks really good to me. And if white plays g3, I guess black can just play g4 and h4 or something like that, right?
Absolutely, and just rip open that king side.
Is
So,
that, let me ask you a question. Is that why Chiron didn't play bishop h2 check in this position? Because he had just such another good continuation?
yeah, it's better to just take the sure, clear advantage. You know, the bishop h2, something can go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I like your way of thinking. You know, to get your way of thinking is it's a good thing for the rest of us.
Well, it makes your life a lot easier uh, to just play a straightforward, strong positional move. When you try to calculate tactics, then you have to calculate, 8 moves ahead, and if you happen to miss something on move 7, well, you regret it.
So, to anybody who's joining us, you may have missed some of the broadcast at the beginning or whatever. We're live for the first time downtown San Francisco. Not for the first time, but for the first time since the pandemic started. And so this is a really historical occasion. I mean, there's people in the chess club, in the office. I'm in the office. Nick is in the chess room annex at 57 Post Street, downtown San Francisco. We've limited the tournament to 50 participants, so we're showing the top. Let's see, how many boards? Only top 5 boards, but that's this is to get up there on the top 5 boards. That's something, and so. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there before we continue.
We may note a difference between this Tuesday night marathon and the last Tuesday night marathon, that Gadir Gusenov is not playing. This time he would have to travel from Baku by the Black Sea all the way to San Francisco. So we won't see him in the Tuesday night marathon, but he will be there for the Thursday one.
Thursday night marathon. So Nick and I are going to continue to do live streaming on Thursday for the online only mechanics Thursday night marathon. But now for the Tuesday night, we're back in the club, and I'm looking at DGT boards, and so Chiron's having a good time here, Nick. What do you say I transition down to Elliot Winslow?
Another of our stalwarts of the Tuesday night marathon.
Exactly.
How Mr. Winslow's doing.
He's Mr. Tuesday night, I mean, that's the only way I can describe him. He's won this tournament so many times, even though Gadir joins in and now has joined in, and maybe the TNM can go back to what's rightfully his,
I think Elliot has the record for most victories and tournament wins.
Yeah, he's won this tournament zillions of times. And by the way, so if you have one of the current issues of Chess Life, you'll see a picture of Hans Niemann on the cover. And he just became America's newest grandmaster. And he won the Tuesday night marathon, I think, at the tender age of 12 years old, becoming the youngest Tuesday night marathon winner, I think. And so, if you play in this tournament and you're a youngster, you've got a great future ahead of you.
Yes, and Elliot taught young Hans Niemann quite a few lessons during the Tuesday night marathon.
That's right. Here, Elliot's playing another young player, woman candidate master Annika Rajaram. What do you think's going on here, Nick?
Well, it's good for the white side. As Christian Clemens says, the dark squares look weak for black. So
Yeah, and actually, coming back here, I was looking at the opening a little bit earlier, and I thought black. Can we run? And one of the things is I can easily do is run through the opening here. I'm getting used to being back at the control board here, and so this all looked kind of normal, but then H6. And I'm thinking maybe that wasn't the right way to play because Elliott seemed to get a nice little edge with this C5 move.
yes, that H6 takes a tempo that could have been better used somewhere else.
Okay, that was my only thing. So then the game went like this, and now Elliott gets the two bishops, and definitely a grip on the dark squares, huh? Black is going to need some action here, quick action.
Well, push that queen back with pawn to f4.
Yeah, queen e5 looks, I'm not sure. Black seems to be kind of in a little bit of trouble here. Okay, and Elliott does indeed play f4. And
Michael Wilder liked that move too, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, we've got our fans watching, Michael Walter and 15 Pandas, and thanks everybody for showing up and hanging out with us. All right, let's. What do you say we switch over to Gaziz Makhanov versus Abhishek Malera? And this is one of your openings from the old days, Nick.
So Rial Inaki Zabala is asked about whereas Abel gave the welcoming speech, welcome back to live chess, but he's directing the tournament now, so he's
Abel's gonna come in and talk for a minute, okay? And I'm gonna let him do it. All right.
And actually not going to be providing any kind of commentary whatsoever. Just got to fix something real quick here.
So we have so many of our regular club members back, and the security guard. He's been such a friend of the chess players for almost a decade here at the Mechanics Institute. So it's just great to see the world beginning to come back to normal.
How's it going? How's it going, Nick? Paul's going to take a quick unscripted break. If I gave you 5 guesses, you could probably figure out what he's going to be doing. So how are the games going?
Well, so far the favorites are doing pretty well, and Chiron's really beginning to charge up the board. So
And can I
sets, yeah.
Can I jump over to Nicholas Wang's game and just how is young Nicholas looking here?
And Nicholas has black.
He's got yeah, he has black in this game.
It looks like it was a Grunfeld, but if White can hold on to that D5 pawn, then he's doing very well. So that knight on A5 stranded. It's safe for the moment, but
that
black.
I was just gonna say that there's a lot of like D4, D5, D4 openings where White can end up with like an isolated pawn, like out of the beginning. Like for D4 openings, like is that considered weak, or is there advantages of having that particular pawn isolated?
If the isolated pawn is aggressive, then it gives you an initiative. Now, if it's completely blocked, then you're just sort of tied down. But here, that d5 pawn's being very aggressive.
It doesn't seem like it blocks in any of White's pieces, right?
Yes.
Almost looks like Alekhine, almost Alekhine-ish, with those knights dancing around over there.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me go. I haven't seen the game yet. So Chiron's game on board 1.
Yes, if you're looking for a bloody game, this will soon start to be that.
Just a kingside attack right over there. And just thank you to everyone in the chat watching. We had a little bit of troubleshooting to do here, so we did it. I mean, we're on live. Maybe one of these days in the newsletter, maybe the very next newsletter, I'll write about the drama that unfolded. Paul's laughing at me. The drama that unfolded from 6:30 to 7:30 in getting the tournament up, the broadcast going. A lot of stuff going on. Let's just say that. But we got this show going, so we're excited. But yeah, I'm gonna do that in the next newsletter. Why not, right? It's a good story. So.
Well, the whole world is going to have these adjustments getting back to normal. So yeah, it'll be a great story.
Let's just say that we're taking on some roles that we didn't expect today, but everything is going well. Wow, Elliot Winslow against Annika Rajaram. Aggressive F4 has just been played.
Yeah, and Annika has a bit of trouble. It's,
and Paul's accusing me of hogging the seat. So we're going to switch so you guys can do real commentary. And I'll go back to directing the tournament. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you in a little bit.
Well, just a good-natured bunch here. We're all having a good time. And I'm really happy to be back. It's unreal almost. So, Nick, you're still there, I assume?
everything's working now. Right?
Okay.
Few bugs to begin with, but I believe we've got everything just smoothly going.
All right. Well, shall we go down to Ghazi's this game that we were looking at just before? What do you think's going on here? That's a little unusual, that knight a4 move.
Well, that's black is pressing on the queen side, and if knight takes a4, pawn takes a4, the only way to save the c2 pawn is to go knight to a1.
And knight to a1 is not the kind of move that you usually want to make, right?
Oh, but I'm wondering if you can go knight takes a4, knight takes a4, knight a5, so that it's hitting that bishop.
Ah, yeah. So knight a4 maybe in the wrong direction. Maybe knight c4 just more straightforward.
Yeah, knight c4 was very straightforward. That would have been fine.
This is
but
maybe
this is
not,
complicated.
yeah, complicated.
That, but knight a5 is a bit of a problem.
Well, we'll have to see what the players are going to play. Even knight takes a4 and knight a1 might not be such a bad idea if you can play c3 and get that knight back to c2. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
Well, yeah, if the knight gets back, but black would have a 2 or 3 moves to get something going. Rook FD8, try to get in pawn D5.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like knight takes A4 and knight A5 and
Oh, this is getting interesting. Knight takes A4, pawn takes A4, knight to A5, and how about knight takes E4?
ah. I
Getting
was
the
looking at
queen.
bishop E4, but I saw that that didn't work to bishop takes F6. But knight takes E4, huh?
The idea pawn takes knight on E4, bishop takes G5, queen takes G5, and you scarf off that knight on A5.
Oh, and that's got to be good for black, huh?
That'd be an extra pawn. So I think your knight A1 is a forced move.
You know, anytime I can play knight A1 and get away with it, I'd probably, you know, just on general principles, want to play a crazy move like that.
So Christian Clemens says he's looking forward to playing next week. Didn't he have a bye this week, Paul?
He took a bye. So,
Okay.
well,
So,
knight E4 is a nice move. Well, let's come back to this, Nick. Do you mind?
yes, as Mike Wilder says, instead of knight to A5, try bishop takes F6 first. But yeah, we'll come back to this.
Ah, bishop F6 and then knight A5.
But it's complicated.
Yeah. All right. A very famous name on board 4, Nick. Theo Biasis versus Adam Mercado. Biasis being the son of Grandmaster Peter Biasis.
And I'm here in the chess annex, and we have Peter Bias's picture up here.
Wow. And he was an old foe of ours back in the day.
But such a good guy.
Good guy and a great chess player, interesting chess player. Played in a couple of interzonals, I think.
Now, 15 Pandas keeps asking, are the clocks moving for your guys? And I have to say no. Clocks are not moving.
Well,
I guess
for me, they are. I can see the clocks ticking by for some reason. I'm on maybe a different. I don't know why that would be.
Paul, you just have lived a charmed life, a better life than I have. And
What I can see the clocks ticking by.
the clock's ticking, yes. The clocks.
Ah, Nick's audio is gone out. And now I can't hear Nick.
Are you sure?
Now I can. Okay. Something was crunching and then I couldn't hear you, Nick.
Okay.
So what's going on in this game, you think?
Let's count the pawns.
Good idea. That's something that I've learned from a long experience, not to sum up anything until I can see who's ahead. White seems to be up a pawn ahead, if I'm counting correctly.
Yeah, so that's just clearly better for white.
Yeah. In the absence of much else, you know, black maybe has two bishops, but and maybe some sort of chances on the king. B5 doesn't look like it helps black much, unless he's planning on playing C4 or sacking another pawn and bishop C5 check and G4 or something like that. But it's still in the future.
Adam Mercado, though, he knows how to generate play.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna and white plays the cramping E5, probably gonna meet C4 with knight E4 or something like that.
So, Paul, you just got a great compliment by sacrificing Crush, saying you're the best commentator in the Bay Area. I'm not going to argue with that.
Well, I just can't stop talking. I've got a big mouth. I think that's it. I don't know when to shut up. So thanks anyway. No, I'll take the compliment. Nick can take the next one. You know, I'm, um, uh, and shall we go back we'll go down in order on board 5 here. Gary Harris versus Nicholas Wang.
So we just have the 5 boards.
Yes, 5 boards. And we can take our time and go back and forth over the moves. Let's go all the way to the beginning of the game. Why not? I'm um, totally willing to do that. And Nicholas is a young player, um, probably about 14 or something like that. And he's a dangerous player. What do you think of this opening, Nick? I'm just zooming through it.
Grunfeld, G3 Grunfeld, there's been quite a few games like this.
Right, okay.
You know, there's chances for both sides in this opening.
Is there anything very odd about any of this so far?
No, that's knight a5 is it's standard, as Mike Walder says. This is book.
Okay, wow.
And you see the white center isn't that secure. And the knight on a5, it looks stranded, but it's hard to get to. And if black can somehow get in pawn to e6 or something, then
You know, Nicholas really knows his openings. I mean, he's the Nadorf, you know, he's like got the sharpest positions, Velimirovich attacks and Nadorf's, and, you know, he's really got a good grasp of the opening, even if he's yet to sort of make the transition to master. He's on his way. Whoops. What do you think of this G4 move?
yeah, that's aggressive. I'm this position, I don't know the theory off the top of my head. But okay, that stops the tactics. It pushes black back.
So has black been happy with this bishop f5, bishop g4, f3? I mean, you know, let's go back here. You know, let's go back here even. You know, with white pawns on f3 and g4. I guess.
Well, you see there's a threat after bishop g4, so you have to do something. And if white had about 5 moves to consolidate, bishop to e3, queen to d2, and the rook's out, it'd be great. But meanwhile, black is trying to get in e6 and free all the pieces, and then white may kind of regret the f3 g4.
Yeah, white's got to move fast. Yeah, okay.
But it's going to be very interesting in the next few moves. I expect some tactics.
And this is where we are.
But Paul, could you switch to Chiron's game?
I'm going right there now. Okay. And we left off somewhere way back here, right? Oh no. We've got a sort of I guess a Nimzo Larson or something. This opening came very aggressive play by black, but perfectly justified. You know, this is black already looks much better here to me.
Yes, if you have to play a3 and b4, it's very slow for white, and then that's knight c4 kind of takes the sting out of white's queenside play.
But this has taken a kind of an interesting turn, and I guess d4 is being played by white here because if white takes twice on d5, then queen e5 is just going to win the house.
Yeah, queen e5 would have threatened the h2 pawn and whatever piece was left on
on d5 and the rook on b2. Sort of been like the most crushing move ever played. Okay, so what did white do? White played d4, trying to take that e5 square from black. Black takes, and black switches over to this double attack on h2 and c3. And that's where we are. And it's white's definitely seems to have gotten pushed around in this game.
Yeah, that one is an ouch. That one just,
I mean, you have
okay.
to save the knight.
Yeah, and then lose the h2 pawn.
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Well, yeah, white has been driven a little pillar to post or whatever they say. All right, well, we can come back to that. What do you say, Nick?
Yeah, I think that's really a pawn in position down for white in that game.
And that was an odd sound. There's a lot of electronic equipment lying around here. There's telephones and computers and laptops and printers, and so there's bound to be a lot of weird noises around here. Okay, let's move on to board 2 here, and usually I think our board 1 normally would have been Hosea Stearman, who took a bye this round. And here we have Elliot Winslow versus Annika Rajaram, women's candidate master Annika Rajaram playing Elliot Winslow, international master. If you've been playing chess in the United States for the last 50 years, you would probably have run into Elliot somewhere in some chess tournament or other. And probably he's played in every state in the union, you know, as well as having a career as a backgammon player and a poker player, and you know.
So, Paul, can you help us out a bit? The clocks don't show for us who are watching on Twitch.
Yeah, I'm wondering why the clocks don't show for you guys.
Could you just tell us the times?
Well, there's hours left yet, everybody. For some reason the clocks aren't showing on your side, but here Elliot's used he has an hour and 20 minutes left. The time control for the tournament is game in 1:20. Actually, Elliot has not used hardly any time at all, it looks like. And Annika has used yeah, I'm a little Annika's has an hour left, and Elliot has an hour and 20 minutes left.
So
Okay.
it's definitely good for white, but still, as Christian says, get that bishop on c8 out to a6, and maybe it's not that bad for black.
Yeah.
Despite the very backward d7 pawn.
What would be the right way for white to win this position? H4, H5?
Or you may want to, you see, h4 allows h5, and then that knight on g7 is going to come to life.
Now, I think that maybe a tactical solution, like playing f5 here or something like that.
Yeah, I might go for the slow squeeze instead.
All right, so it's slow squeeze versus tactical. Yeah, there's different ways to play this position, I think, for white. White's holding all the trumps. Yeah. Okay. And I have to remember that I've been reminded to remember that right next door there's all these people playing chess, and they can actually hear me, unless if I'm shouting too loudly. So I'm going to keep it down a little bit, and they can't hear you, Nick. You're in the chess room annex with all those beautiful pictures behind you. So, in any case, let's and look at this. It's as though Elliot was choosing to listen to the FIDE master rather than the grandmaster and played F5.
Well, okay, does this work tactically?
Well, there's that pawn at H6 hanging.
Yes. The,
And there's the idea of opening the game up for the two bishops. And also,
sudden.
when you're a player of, you know, the age difference is huge here. If Elliot keeps on playing and playing and playing, he's going to get tired, and then the young player will, you know, have many reserves of energy and be able to outfox the old guy, and you know, so Elliot has to act now or it's going to be too late, you know, don't you think, Nick?
Well, that I'm sure that's very true. But now that we look at his move, wow, that F5 is a strong move. It's what do you do if you take twice on F5, the bishop takes on H6 while you've opened the G file? Yeah, it's terrific for white.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I don't think black could really allow F6 here. Although maybe the knight could reroute back to E8 and C7 and then D5. But I think white's more interested in opening the game up with F5 than cramping black further with F6. Once you've played F5, you just want to open everything up.
It's hard to offer black good advice. It's if king to H7, I think you could probably take on G6, pawn takes G6, pawn to H4.
And just continue to open up the game.
Yes, sometimes it's tactically not working for black. F5 is a great move.
Well, I just got lucky with that suggestion. I'm ready for my usual batting average of about, you know, 5%. But let's go take a look at the next game. What do you think? Gaziz?
Yes, we could take Mike Welder's suggestion to exchange on F5 and bishop A6, but yeah, it's still a tough situation.
And that's briefly taking on F5 with the E pawn and then playing bishop A6. White could win a pawn then by taking on G6, right? And then
Right.
then after bishop D3, taking on F7.
Yeah, you would be giving up a pawn, but you might say, I'll give up that pawn to exchange my bad bishop and
Yeah.
get some squares. Might be your best shot.
Okay, let's move on. Board 3. As far as I know, I'm not sure the ratings of these players, but I guess he's certainly an expert. And I'm not sure, you know.
So Gaziz allowed that tactic that we mentioned some time ago. And
Perhaps it's black that's the expert chess player, but so far the game, yeah, there's that tactic.
well, so black has won a pawn.
Yeah. But this is so static in a way. Well, I guess if black can get in, yeah, black should be clearly better here, I guess. Yeah.
Um,
White has to gang up on d6 as fast as possible before black just finds a way to play pawn f5 or something.
so trouble for white there, but all right, because he's playing the white side, there's going to be something to give him chances.
And let's go down to Theo Biasis. Wow, this game is still, black is still thinking about his move after pawn e5, Nick.
That knight wants to jump into e4.
A5 here is being suggested, but knight e4, white's got this main idea of sort of centralizing, and
I think black is going to have to play pawn to g4 at some point. And then maybe white wants to do pawn to f4. What can you do?
all right, well, this seems still up in the air, and black is having a long thought here. But, you know, I mean, the games are slow and leisurely here at TNM. I mean, 2 hours apiece.
We have to get used to this new time control.
Yeah, it used to be Nick and I would be like chat, chat, chat out the door, but now we gotta, you know, put in the time with the players here. It's a new paradigm. Actually, it's the old paradigm, but we're back at the club after over a year. All right, so white is obviously better, a pawn ahead here.
Sacrificing crush says white is winning, and maybe that's a bit strong, but it's very, very close to winning.
All right, we left off here, Nick, in this game, and white played bishop e3, and now bishop to d4.
Okay, I think that was good. That bishop on g7 was causing so much trouble. You had to.
And black is playing against that d5 pawn with rook d8, and then bishop g7, king g7, and queen d4 check. And black is in the tank, thinking.
Yes. Now you could do pawn to e5.
Oh, look at that. Mm-hmm.
Because you can't take on passant, you would lose a piece. So the queen would have to retreat, and then the d5 pawn is hanging. But you could get into a pin. So
this is
thought immediately.
Yeah, okay, so e5 takes on e6 is, you can't slip the e pawn through with e7 after queen d4, knight d4, rook d4, e7, black moves the bishop at c8 to e6 or something, and he plays e5.
Okay, so pawn takes, pawn on passant would lose a piece and for not enough compensation, so that white queen has to move somewhere.
So has white miscalculated? Very possible.
Yeah, but let's see. Queen to e3. There's a good spot for that. When knight d5 attacks the queen, is queen f2, knight takes d5.
Then you can pin him.
Rook to d1, bishop to e6, and you can throw something else on with pawn to f4.
Yeah,
So,
it's starting to get pretty wild here.
so queen f2, and
Now,
maybe white's getting a lot of play.
Now, I don't know exactly. I don't know Gary Harris. I don't think, or if I do, I apologize. It sometimes my memory, remembering people's names, is not always the best thing. But Nicholas, I do remember well, and Nicholas had just beaten a couple of strong players in one of these Tuesday night marathons, and I asked him, you know, how do you beat the older players? And he smiled at me and he says, I outcalculate them. So I wonder if that's what's going to happen here. Yeah, these. Remember when we were young and full of confidence? In this. Now we're old and full of confidence.
Okay, we can, since it's a slow game, we can take our time. Queen to f2 with a fine position for white unless black can make knight takes d5 work. So we try queen to f2, knight takes d5, rook a to d1, bishop to e6, pawn to f4, threatening the knight on d5. And can we find anything for the black side? I don't see it. The best is like a sacrifice. Knight takes c3, rook takes d6, knight e2 check, queen e2, rook d6, but then comes queen e5 check.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, so at first you think, oh, black is doing very well, but then you pause and think, and oh, I think black is in trouble.
Well, he doesn't have to take on d5. After queen f2, I mean, maybe black could play bishop d7. Oh, then comes rook d1, and then knight e4.
Holding that important pawn.
Yeah.
And when the rook's on d1, then knight e4 can come.
Unless black plays f5, which is kind of dangerous. Black seems to maybe white should keep his head here and play queen f2. All right, let's see what we'll come back to this. What do you say, Nick?
Yes,
let's go back up to board one. Oh, another long think here, which is not a good sign. Thinking too much in chess is really not a good idea.
Well, this is the time to think. It's been you're in big trouble. So
there's an expression that translates so easily to chess, and that's "look before you leap." You know what I mean, right? That should be actually a chess expression. Look before you leap. White's got himself into a real pickle here.
So we have Alexi from Texas. She's joined us again. Thank you for joining us. And when we're on live, and we've had a few technical difficulties to start, but it's great to see everybody here on the Tuesday nights again.
Yeah. Hi, Alexi.
But yes, anybody sees a miracle here for the white side?
Well, I want to play b6, but then queen takes c3. So, white just doesn't seem to have enough time to get anything going before black plays bishop h2 and g4, or maybe g4 first.
You know what? Maybe that's the way to do it. b6, queen takes c3, pawn takes a7 check. Say king takes a7, double rooks on the B line.
And hope that you overlook rook takes b7 check.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think white is thinking here, and actually, I know you folks can't see it at home, but white only has 32 minutes left here for the entire game, whereas black has an hour and 32 minutes left. So I'll fill you in on the, which means that there's about 2 hours of play left here in the Tuesday night marathon. And
Yeah, this game probably won't go the 2 hours.
okay, we're gonna switch to board 2, Elliot Winslow versus Annika Rajaram, and wow, okay, so black did play after f5. Black did play king h7, and then did not. I mean, what do you think white should play here? Or, I mean, maybe he should play what Elliot played, but there's still the idea of keeping the game open by taking on g6 or playing h4. But Elliot decided to block it up with
Yes,
f6.
I would have gone pawn takes g6, pawn takes g6, pawn to h4, and attacked on the king side.
Okay.
But Elliot wanted to go for just the long squeeze.
So
Yeah.
f6, knight e8, and well, he's gonna try to. This is not such a squeeze either. Look at this, h5, and
Okay.
is black just busted here?
Very interesting. That knight can get to that wonderful d5 square, but it looks too slow. h5 starts a huge attack. So, what can black possibly do? So, ooh, suddenly that h6 pawn.
Yeah, I think Elliot found the right thing to do here, which was to both open it up and open the door and close the door at the same time. Does that make any sense?
Well done. His f5 move was terrific, and this plan is just incredibly strong.
Crushing. Probably. All right. Trouble for the young candidate master. I'm going to move on to the third board where black has found a way. First of all, white fell for this tactic here. And let's show everybody this. White took on, after knight a4, black played knight a4. White took on a4 and then played this knight a5 move, which at first looked like the right thing to do, but black plays knight e4. Nice little tactic. Take, and now the knight at a5 is undefended after queen takes g5, queen a5. Black has won a pawn. Bishop f3 defends the pawn on e4, and black goes back to b6, attacking the pawn at b2 and defending the pawn at d6. And white plays c3, defending the pawn at b2. And black plays rook e8. That's an interesting move, Nick. What do you think of that?
Well, everything's good for black. So this is maybe the
Interesting idea. The rook can come up. White plays queen back to d2 and now d5.
and that was the idea of rook to e8. That
Because now e4 and e3 if e takes d5, right? If white takes on d5, then black plays pawn e4 followed by pawn e3.
Yes. So,
Okay, so white dodged away with rook e1, and black got in d5 for free, and is playing a nice game.
yeah, it's a very clear pawn off.
Yeah.
With pawn to f5.
Yeah, pawn f5 is a nice move, maybe, or just taking on e4. He plays pawn f5. Nice. Black is playing a nice game. At least to my eyes.
Yeah, because either pawn that you take is just pawn to e4 within a piece.
Yeah, e4 and e3.
Doesn't seem to be any way out of that.
So this move actually wins at the pawn on e4.
Which then gives you this incredibly crushing pawn center besides the 2-pawn advantage. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to this.
Well, that move was the most fun move of the tournament so far.
Yeah, f5. Nice move by black. Let's take a look at this Theo Biasis game, which had a little action here. Okay. We
I missed the text.
we had this, and black played bishop c6. Thought for a long time, played bishop c6, and after knight e4, played bishop e4, rook e4, king b7, and here we are. White is still a pawn ahead, and even though the bishop's probably not where it should be at f6, or maybe it is where it should be.
Yeah, and you have a 4-2 pawn majority on the king side. So this is a technical win.
Okay.
Played correctly, and Theo's been playing very accurate moves so far.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. And
Okay,
I think
I
somebody's
would
going to
give
jump in.
The pieces.
Oh, we're
So,
all going to take a break.
Yep.
All right. Bye for now.
And we're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we'll be back in the broadcast at 9 p.m. No emergency, just a long night, and give them a 15-minute break. It'll help.
Okay, folks, we're back here, and it looks like Kyron has won his game. Let's take a look at how that happened here. Black played queen c7, and white went into a long think. Nick, can you hear me?
Yes, I am.
And I can actually hear you. Okay, so white played knight e2, but doesn't that just lose the bishop?
Certainly looks like it.
Check, and then g4. White played bishop d5. I mean, if g3, you take on f3 and you're hitting the knight on e2. So, I mean, I'm not sure what white was thinking here, but his position was probably lost anyway.
There was no way out.
He just traps the bishop that way, but the position is now being opened. Has to take there, takes.
Well, this is funny because it looks like you've trapped that bishop on h2, so you think you have some hope, but suddenly you get this position, and there's no way out. It's
What happens if queen g3?
well, I believe that was played, but the rook on a1 is loose.
Yeah, actually he didn't play queen g3 because of rook h1 check, and queen g3 wins the rook on a1, so he played queen g2, and then knight e3, fork the king and queen. Oh no, something must have happened there. I guess this is just the DGT board.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, this is something to do with the DGT board. White lost.
You know, sometimes the players move pieces after the game is over.
Right. Okay, let's go to Elliot Winslow's game versus Annika Rajaram. Oh no. Okay, this game ended quickly after bishop e4. We saw this. Knight c7, h5, rook h8, h takes. I mean, after h5, there's no defense, it looks like.
Crashing through, winning at least one pawn.
Black is in full. I mean, obviously, rook h6 check would have been winning as well. This looks even better because white has bishop g7 check, winning a whole rook. And winning actually 2 rooks. So, yikes. Okay.
Well, a very forceful game.
Yeah. Elliot played a good game, and just a reminder about what I think went wrong for black here was right here. Black took time out to play h6, and that seems to be the wrong idea. Too slow. Black maybe even h5 almost looks playable here with the idea of playing knight g4. But more conservatively, black could have said, well, you know, my bishop at c5 has done its duty or something, and maybe black could play c5.
Yes. Pawn to c5 has a lot of merit to it, but yeah, white's better in any case.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, this seemed to be the critical moment, I thought. And after that, Mr. Winslow played quite a good game. We're quite impressed with his play. I don't have any access to the chat right now. Are people joining us and saying hello, Nick?
Well, no, I don't. After our 15-minute break, Alexi has logged off because it's later in Texas. So, but okay, Mike Wilder is with us.
All right. Well, hi out there in chess TV land, or whatever it can be called. Okay, so let's go and see what's going on the board below that, which was this game. Black played this really lovely f5 move, and um, White can't take on e4, take on d5 or f5 because of pawn e4, and White threw the bishop out to h5, and that just seems to run into g6, and now White is in the tank again. And it just seems that White's losing here. Already a pawn down, the bishop is threatened, the pawn at e4 is threatened, and this is not looking good. What do you think, Nick?
Yes, we were just joined for a moment by Elliot Winslow after his fine game. But, off to catch the BART train. Yes, this is just absolutely crushing. Another game just like in Karen Griffiths, where you're looking desperately to try to find something, but it just doesn't seem to be there.
Well, then I'm going to move on to Mr. Biasis's game here, and we left it off right around here. And White penetrated with rook d7, and then switched the rook over to h7, and Black played g4, and White sidesteps with king f1 to win the pawn on h5. I like that move, king f1.
It's wonderfully defensive and leaves you with all the pluses in your position.
And it keeps that rook at e4 defended too.
Yes.
I like it. I like that move, king f1. Very well considered move.
You know, Black can't get a rook to the d line. How do you guard that h5 pawn? The bishop on f8 can't contest the bishop on f6. So it's just really tough here.
Nice move, king f1. Brings the king a little closer to the center as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at Harris and Nicholas Wang, this game. Oh, and you know what? It looks like that sacrifice that you were talking about. We haven't looked at this game for a long time.
Oh, yes, let's go back and see what happened.
Yeah, this was an interesting game here. Hold on. I'm going to try to go back. For some reason, this keeps coming up. All right, so yeah, we were past here.
He brought the queen to e3, it looks like, after e5.
He played queen to e3. Huh. Not queen to f2.
And queen to f2 so that the queen is not attacked by the knight on knight d5. It's a huge difference.
But White decided to give the queen up for 2 rooks.
Well, first of all, White's given a pawn, and yeah, so queen for 2 rooks. But then you need an attack. You're technically down 2 points.
Black played queen d4. That must be that's a typical DGT board mistake. What actually happens is rook d3. This can't be right. We know this is not right. Instead, Black actually played rook takes d1, and we got this position anyway. That is some DGT madness right there, folks.
Okay, now so obviously the order of moves was wrong.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we end up with the right position. Queen takes d1, rook takes d1. Oh yeah, then queen e5, king back.
And actually because the white queen went down to e7, and yeah, let's just say that this position was reached. This position was reached. White couldn't have played queen a5. There was some DGT issue, and now black plays knight c6, queen e8, king g7. I keep running into this this arrow issue here. I don't know why that is. I'm going to just press. Let's see if I can get rid of it. Okay, I'll use the, yeah. So after all that DGT nonsense that we just saw, we've reached this position. And what do you think of this? How this is shaping up to be a little difficult for black, maybe with the dark squares. I don't know.
Yes, it's and I wonder if White could have even had that queen and knight do cause trouble.
Still, you would think this would be good for black. You know, the pawns are even. Well, the pawns are even, Nick. Somehow White gained the pawn back.
Yes, that. Oh, okay. The e5 pawn
What's that?
and queen for 2 rooks, but yes, because of the weak dark squares around the black king, it should be better for the white side.
Yeah.
Queen and knight are good together.
All right, so this is still an interesting game developing here. And let's go back to this game where black has played g6 and white is still thinking. And I can tell you, I know you can't, I don't think you can see this at home, but white has 27 minutes left and black has over an hour left. I'm not sure why the clocks don't, and I think white is just not happy here. I mean, the
Well,
bishop.
you have 2 choices. You can just go back with the bishop, and after pawn on f5 takes pawn on e4, that's a crushing position. 2 extra pawns off the center pawn.
Well, okay, well, I guess let's just keep it looking at what you.
And the alternative is you can sacrifice a piece. You can go pawn takes f5
and lose in some manner like that.
or pawn takes h5 would win a piece immediately. I'm wondering if there's cheap line like queen g5 check, king to h8, pawn to f6, rook to g8, pawn to f7.
Black could also just take on f5 with the rook, ef5, rook f5, but that's, you want to take the bishop and say, you got nothing.
Much safer is to go pawn takes f5, rook takes f5. But at least that gives you some hope. So try f5.
Hope, yeah, hope for white is in, yeah, okay. So let's go to Theo Biasis here. Black plays rook g6, which is an empty threat. I mean, white just takes the pawn on h5, and now black is, I mean, white's essentially 3 passed pawns ahead here.
Yes, so there's no way out. And that bishop f6 and pawn on e5 just stops all the black forces.
All right, well, this is not looking good for black.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's lost. It's a matter of can you get some cheapos in before it's over.
Okay. Let's go back down to this game where we're still waiting for a move. So, Nick, you got any big personal chess things are you working on, that you're working on?
It's not right now. It's I mean, I'm looking at revising modern chess openings in the future, but not the immediate future.
Okay,
The
interesting.
Las Vegas tournament.
What about the Las Vegas tournament?
Well, I won't be playing there, but I'll go to visit. There's a lot of people. The former president of the Mechanics Institute will be there. A lot of chess people that we know in the chess world. And just like we're opening up here, that's the sort of start of chess again in the USCF.
So, I mean, I didn't know you were going. I know that that Judith and Abel will be there too. So,
And the commentator will be Elliot Winslow.
And Elliot Winslow will be a commentator, and I feel like I'm deserting the good ship, but I won't be meeting you guys in Vegas this time around. I'm giving it a pass. But
well, there'll always be tournaments in Vegas. There's one in June with the National Open. There was one at the end of the year. What is it called? I think North American Open. So you won't have to wait long if you feel a need to go to Sin City.
Okay. I played in the National Open once in the I think the late 1980s.
And how did you like it?
I remember, I remember playing blackjack.
Well, I hope you did well at the tables.
My chess wasn't. No, I didn't. A kindly dealer let me play for an hour for $20 or something like that. I don't remember my chess very well. It was undistinguished. I remember watching Shirazi playing Zinjandashvili blitz chess, and enjoying that very much. They were playing for some ridiculous amount of money, like $50 a game, and they were playing with a backgammon doubling cube as well. So if one player thought that the blitz chess, like 2 minutes apiece or something like that, and if one player thought that they were doing better, they would double the bet, So a $100 game became a $200 game, and so on, and very entertaining. Very entertaining.
So that means you have to resign the game if you don't take the doubling cube?
Yeah. But, isn't that funny stuff? So I don't remember my own games hardly at all. I don't think I was playing very distinguished chess at that time. Have you ever won the National Open, Nick? I know you've played a bunch of times.
I've tied for first a couple of times. That's
nice.
That's there's so many players. I think there's this tournament. There's 800. Probably end up being 1,000 players. That you usually get a tie at the top.
Yeah. Wow. It's almost going to be like a coming out event for American chess.
Yes.
Incredible.
So
we're still waiting for a move here, but I'll move on to another game. Should I?
Just now we've got the 5 DGT games. I remember a year and a half ago we'd do 10 games, but of course
we'll probably get back up to 10 games at some point, I'm sure, in the not too distant future. And look at that, after E takes F5, Black did take the sort of conservative approach with Rook F5 and didn't take the bishop.
Absolutely the best chance, the pawn takes F5, you had to sacrifice the piece, and maybe it would have been complicated, probably not that sound, but anyway.
But White now I think probably has to play bishop g4, but then comes rook f4 and the other rook to f8, and ugh. This is not looking good.
So you won't even go for the end game. With Bishop G4 trade into an end game. You're going to play Rook F4 and
Actually, Rook F4 might not be good because of Queen F4, huh?
that. Yeah. Queen F4, Pawn F4, Rook takes E8, check, 2 rooks for the Queen, and things getting complicated. So
just go for the end game with Rook takes F2.
Rook takes F2, but all right, that's only 1 pawn ahead. That's not the end of the world.
So maybe Black should have taken that pesky bishop on H5.
Well, it would have been much more aggressive, and could you go back a move?
I will.
And I don't know if we can move the pieces on
No,
this.
we can't, Nick.
Okay.
We have to just use our brains, which you're far more. So let's take a look.
Now, so we'll have to think, and if you, our viewers, think along with it, if the pawn takes the bishop on H5,
Queen G5 check.
5 check, the king goes to H8, and then you go pawn to F6, threatening queen to G7 checkmate. And rook to G8 is not a good solution because of pawn to F7.
Yeah, and then if Rook G5, you take on E8, make a new queen, and then you can take on E5, and boy, Black's getting some compensation. I mean, White's getting some compensation.
So after pawn takes H5, queen to G5 check, king to H8, pawn to F6, you'd have to go rook to F7. But okay, rook takes E5. You've got the 2 pawns for a piece.
And you're dominating, and you've got a little domination going on. That might be good for White. Who knows?
Yes, I mean it's still a bit complicated. Rook takes E5. The rook comes to G8.
Yeah, yeah. So, folks, we're looking at G takes H5, Queen G5 check, King H8, Pawn F6, threatening Queen G7, and Rook F7, and then Rook takes E5, and then what?
Rook to G8, rook on E8 to G8, and if Queen takes H5, then Rook takes F6, hits the Rook on F2. If the Queen goes somewhere else, maybe Pawn to D4. But it's okay. It's probably winning, but it's very complicated.
So instead, Black played Rook takes F5, and now Bishop G4. And if Rook F4, Queen F4. And I wouldn't be happy if I was Black, probably there.
So probably Black has to try to win the endgame. Rook takes F2, Queen takes F2, Queen takes F2, King takes F2, and play something like Bishop C6 to stop Bishop to D7.
And defend everything.
So pawn up for Black. White's suffering, certainly.
I played Rook F6 instead.
Okay, still wants to double on the F line.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, he could play Queen to E3.
Ah.
And still we have an endgame.
Yeah, Queen E3. That simple move. Yeah, White's still surviving.
Yeah.
And White has made some good moves here.
It was looking so hopeless after that pawn to F5, but
Yeah.
Good.
White's played some very good moves.
Well, if White gets a draw, it's a well-deserved draw.
All right, let's look. Let's move down here to Mr. Biasis, and we can go back here and see what happened after Rook H5. Black played C4 and an attempt to, I would say, a desperate attempt to do something.
You gotta try.
Takes, gave up another pawn. The king came into the middle and gave up yet. Why didn't White take on C7?
You know, White's already 3 pawns ahead.
There's no reason not to take on C7 that I can see. He didn't do it. He played Rook G4, and Black traded and played King E4.
C7, maybe Bishop to C5. It's just
King E4, King E2, Rook B8, E6. This game is coming to a conclusion here, or should be.
Pawn to E6. Oh, King E2. Oh, and now pawn to E6. Okay. That's a good move.
So it's White's move here. Pawn E7.
Yeah, that's a good move. Just tie everybody down to that pawn. There's no time for counterplay, and you don't mind if they would win the E pawn and trade all the pieces.
Yeah, if Bishop takes E7, you can play Rook E5 check. So it just seems to win. You can even follow it up with playing Rook H8 and give up the E7 pawn with a winning endgame.
Yeah, very, very, very good. Pawn E7's just a simple way to cash in the point.
Maybe Black could sidestep with King F4 or something, H3, but what? He has nothing.
No, 3 pawns down in an endgame is pretty tough. Yeah, if you could find some way to checkmate, but there's just nothing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
our international masters won their games quite quickly and decisively.
Yeah, those games are over, by the way. These games, this was the likely ending position right here of Drury and Kyron Griffith, with White getting his king and queen forked, and Elliot Winslow really played a nice game here. And the final position in that game was White was 2 rooks ahead. And Black resigned.
There's this game where the Black Knight just got pushed back and not trapped, but was so limited.
So on our boards 3, 4, 5, this is board 3 with Black seeming to really have White on the ropes, and now we've got a game that's become a little more difficult for Black. Yeah, but Black is still holding a nice advantage, I would say. And Theo Biasis is trying to find a way to finish this game. Looking much better here for Cesare Mercado. And finally on board 5, Black, after the knights got centralized this way, and then Queen G5.
Okay, we haven't seen this in a while, and this is interesting because 2 rooks for a queen, nominally a material advantage for the rooks, but the queen and knight really work well together, and the dark squares are weak. So,
and White's got a very compact position too, in a way. So Black, It was funny, the DGT board replay won't help us because there were some really crazy things. And that's the difference between chess.com and following things on DGT boards. Sometimes you get these hilarious move orders and stuff like that that are incomprehensible. Like, for example, in this position, knight d5, queen d5, rook d1. Obviously, black played queen d1 here. And then after rook d1, you know, the king, rook d1, king f2, and then, oh no, after queen g1, I think white played queen e5 check.
Yes.
That's what happened.
Yeah, I'm curious for the explanation as to how the DGT board could give such strange moves, but end up in the right position.
I've seen this happen on numerous occasions, so I don't know exactly how it does happen. But we eventually got back to reality with this. And white achieves some coordination here with the knight and the queen, like you say, and maybe a little uncomfortable for black here.
So Sebi got home in Mill Valley after he'd actually come live to mechanics after playing in all the online tournaments. So
he's back in Mill Valley?
Back in Mill Valley, yes.
And he's on the chat?
He's on the chat. So how about
ask how he did.
Yeah, how did you do, Sebi, and did you enjoy it?
I'm waiting to hear an answer. That's okay. All right, so this is interesting. Black is a little bit messed up on the dark squares and no easy targets for attack. The rook at a8. Excuse me. Rook a8, still out of, white has the initiative here. The wind in his sails.
So, yes, Sebi won his game. Elliot Winslow made it to the BART train.
Congratulations, everybody, for coming out and then making it safely home.
Yes, as everyone knows, the BART trains officially end at 9 o'clock, and of course they'll continue on to the end once they start running. But,
shall I move on from this? Black is still thinking here, Nicholas. And let's go back up to this game, which is transitioned into a rook and bishop ending. After queen e3, black played rook f8. What? Queen b6, rook b6. Oh, I see. He's targeting the b2 pawn in exchange for the e5 pawn. And white decides not to make that exchange. Probably wisely, right?
well, okay, so if he had taken on...
Shall I go back?
If he had taken on e5, taken on... Well, black takes on b2.
No, black plays rook f2 first, right?
Well, first rook takes f8, king takes f8, rook takes e5, rook takes b2. I don't know, that had some serious drawing chances too.
White decides to play passively.
Okay, that's also all right. Somehow, at least black has some pawns on the light squares. So,
But black strikes back with d4. Could White now take on E5?
Oh, interesting. Then the pawn, if the pawn goes to D3,
Black could take on C3 and play Rook B3, right?
yes.
That would be dangerous for White, I think, as well.
We'll play pawn to D3 and you're going to take on B2 anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe the pawn at D3 would... Yeah, okay, so White decides to trade on D4, and now he's thinking.
But you only have one thing to worry about in this position, that black D pawn. So that's
This game has got a ways to go, except for White is in a slight time pressure, folks. Guys don't know that, but he's only got 17 minutes left, whereas Black has almost an hour. So we're going to see. And White plays Bishop E6. Oh no, he played Bishop to D7, rather. On the A4 pawn. I mean, if Black can get rid of that pawn.
so now if bishop to C6, trying to guard all your pawns, might look bad if rook to E6 happens.
Yeah.
Pawn to D3, you go rook takes, oh, what do? Rook takes C6, you do pawn to D2. And rook C8 check, king E7, bishop G4, stopping the pawn on from queening. So bishop D7, a very good aggressive move. And maybe the pawns are going to be even. It's just been great defense from White here.
Yeah, White's playing a nice game defensively. I mean,
so yeah, Kristen Clemens is wondering about that. Bishop C6, rook E6. Can we make things work for Black in that position?
if D3, King F2, you can play Rook B2 check. So that doesn't. Although,
Bishop,
yeah.
Rook E6, D3, rook takes C6 is the big question.
And then if D2, Rook check down, King E7, Bishop G4.
Bishop G4 and rook takes B2, but it just doesn't look like enough for.
No, White could probably play Rook A6.
Yes, it's
Even if you had to give up the bishop, the pawn, the bishop.
Bishop E6 is a blunder.
Well, he hasn't played it yet, so let's see. Let's go to this game. This game is just turning into a routine win for White here. Let's see how he got there. He just straight up played Rook H8.
Oh, and they exchange. So.
And then Black managed to win the E6 pawn, but that's not enough to draw the game here. And this game is just looking like an easy win for White. And that means that we're left with this game, and Black is still thinking. What do you do? How do you defend positions like this? You know, where the threats aren't, necessarily direct, but you've got to look for really subtle resources, I think.
So I want to say goodnight to Michael Wilder, who is picking up Elliot who might be stranded at the West Oakland BART station, and they're off to get sushi. So So that's a good finish to the round.
Terrific. It's nice to know that our players are getting home safe and sound. You know, I used to say as a joke on the Zoom meetings, everybody have a nice ride home. Uh, but
So,
there's some truth to that in the real world here. When players leave the club, sometimes they have a long journey home.
um, yeah, that's
So what's the threat here? Something like Queen F6, King G8, Queen back to E5, with the idea of playing Knight F6 check.
yeah, that would be a good way to work on those dark squares. Um, you might go knight to C6, but knight F6 check, king to H8, queen back to C3.
And then maybe block at D4 again with the knight.
Yeah, black's got some defenses. It's not so easy to get in.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that.
But queen E5 check immediately is probably.
So maybe black should play rook D5?
Well, Mr. Winslow suggests pawn to H6 but queen E5 check. Where does the king go? There's no really nice square.
No, I think that's a mistake. H6, Queen E5 check. King G8, Knight F6 check. What, then King F8? Queen C5. King can go back to G7. It might work.
H5, king G8, knight F6.
So Elliot's in the chat, which means that he's in the chat on his phone.
Because Tom
Yes.
Mason just offered to give him a ride.
Oh, he got a ride back with Tom Mazer, I think.
No. Tom
Oh.
Mazer just asked
Oh, I see.
if he was around.
Some funny stuff going on.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans. Yeah. By the ways, nobody out there in the chess world knows this fellow outside of the Mechanics Institute Chess Club, but we have a local hero entering into our next round, and that's Jerry Simpkins. And I want to shout out to all the local chess players that the great one is back, and watch out. Are you still there, Nick?
I think everybody in the chess club who's been here for years, they know who it is when you say the great one.
The great one, yeah.
One and only great one. And Jerry Simpkins did not play online, so some of you, like Sebi, may not understand who the great one is, but soon you will.
Right.
And to hear his voice, that'll be
We can hear his voice booming in the halls of the chess club, even as we speak.
Wisdom.
Yeah. Okay, so rook c8 is played. So queen e5 check. What happens? King g8. It looks to me like white wins a pawn here, at least. Simple calculation. Queen e5 check.
King5 check, king to f8.
And then white could play, to be completely greedy.
Oh, let's be greedy. That's okay, Paul.
Queen h8 and queen h7. Is that bad because of rook c2 check?
Well, at least black gets to have a bit of fun. Black gets to do a check or two. So the line being queen e5 check, king f8, queen h8 check, king e7, queen takes h7, rook c2 check. And
Yeah, with a lot of counterplay. And the queen stuck out of play. But white plays queen f6 check without really. Is he going to play knight d6 next or something? Well, no. What is the move? What's the idea here? Oh, he's going to withdraw the queen to e5 after king g8.
and then it's almost the same.
Right.
Although king g8, queen e5, can you play h6 then? Knight f6 check, king f8.
And you transpose into some variation of Eliot's, where black's actually gained a move with rook c8.
So we have a question, Paul. Wasn't the great one going to be here this evening?
Well, he took a bye. He had an important televised event to watch.
Well, okay, that's.
I think it
was a great one.
Something about NBA.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, he's
The great one is a sports fan. Is there an important NBA game going on tonight?
I think there's always some game, but maybe the Lakers are playing tonight. They're the defending champions. So. I'm not sure if Jerry's a Laker fan or.
Let's run up to this game, and Black is still thinking about his move. This is
okay.
Good time to put in some thought, but we're going to move on to Theo Biasis's game. This game is over, obviously.
Is it over as in resigns or?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Oh, you're right. That's not over. It's
Black is still thinking here.
I have to tell you, I don't like the black bishop on b4. It's very hard to get a stalemate when you have a bishop like that.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
A jack can annoy you or a queen, but the bishops. So.
Okay, so let's move on to Harris and Wang. Okay, on queen f6 check, black played this surprising king f8 straight away. And now white can probably draw at will here if he wanted to.
Well, that's no fun.
Well, I think we have to remember that black is also the higher ranked player. I think sometimes the ratings are considered here.
Very true. Actually, then you might worry. But yes, queen h8 check, king to e7, queen f6 check. The black king can never get to the d file because you'll snatch off the knight on d4.
So it's a forced draw if white wants it.
Yes.
All right. Well, if I'm white, I might. I don't know what I would do. I mean, black is going to get some play if he's allowed to play rook c2 check or something. Although the rook at d8 needs tending to. Both kings could become vulnerable.
Yes, it's white's got this great queen and knight, but the bishop on g2 is no good. Yeah, okay. Christian says he'd take the coward's way and just make a draw, call it a night, go home.
I don't think it's cowardly. I think it's it's showing that maybe the position is not so easy to play for either side.
Yeah, that's certainly true. We tried bishop to f1 to come to c4, get some play, but maybe
Risky.
on to b5.
Yeah, I think if I'm white, I'm feeling like I could play on for a move or two, maybe. All right, how about marching the king up to h6? King g3. Let's start off with king g3.
There we go, some real action. It's true. It's true. You can't move too many of the black pieces because they need to defend each other and defend the king.
Yeah, yeah. I'm feeling like that somehow. And I like the idea of maybe playing the king to g3 right away and just, all right, if knight e2 check, king h4. Possibly. Black's a little paralyzed here.
Yes. So if you feel you have courage, then this would be a good position to play. How are the times? It's
21 minutes for black and 31 minutes for white.
No, even more reason to play on with the white side. Besides the fact that we need some more interesting games.
And this game, black is still thinking after bishop d7. I think maybe black is a little stunned at the turnaround here, or not turn around into a bad game, but turn around into sort of almost an equal game.
Yes, from a position that looked completely over, that pawn to f5, that great sacrifice. You thought, oh, he's going to resign any moment. No, he took courage, offered a peace sacrifice, and when that was declined, he got into an end game, which was only a pawn down. Now it looks like he's winning his pawn back.
Bishop h5.
Pawn to g6.
And then white played the only move to give himself some hope here. Took on f5, and this proved to be quite the move.
And I think Michael Walder suggested maybe go pawn to e4, just ignore it all.
Ah, that's a great idea. Pawn to e4. Nice.
And because
you can play pawn to e3.
But I don't know, is there queen to g5 would then be hit by rook takes f5. So very interesting move, pawn to e4. And that may have been the way to reel in the point.
Yeah. Just when you think you've got, your hands on the full point, there's your opponent comes up with some, black takes what we thought was a good decision here, rook f5, but white just gets so resourceful here. And maybe black lost a little bit of time with rook f6, Nick. Maybe this was a wild goose chase to b2 here.
But then, white's just making some small mistakes, and suddenly you get back in the game. So that's how you do great defense. You do what you have to do. Sometimes you have to take a great risk, but
I think we're going to see less blunders with the longer time controls, more careful play. We were used to seeing. One of the things that just struck me, Nick, is, when you make a horrible blunder online, right? You can't see your opponent, and you can't, you know, it's somehow less embarrassing, you know. But if you make a horrible blunder right in front of somebody, then you know you're you're less likely to do it maybe because it's, you know, it's out there in the open to be seen or something, and so you're more careful. And
Well, certainly you have more time, and yeah,
yeah, more time. And I think we're going to see less silly mistakes than we've been seeing online. You know, you right before you move, you can look up at your opponent and you can see where his eyes are moving and all that kind of stuff. So we have a couple of moves here. G3, Rook D2. So I was looking at this and I was thinking, okay, black can, you know, cement the pawn down, but white king comes up to E3 or something like that,
yeah,
right?
it's just turned around. It looks like it should be a draw now.
Okay.
And you know what? Suddenly, once you've got a position that you can draw, you think, maybe I can try to win the game.
Right. Right. Black still has more time than white. Almost double the amount of time, like 30 minutes to 17 minutes. So, all right, let's move on to Theodore Biasis's game.
And is that one still live?
Black just played King E8,
Okay, we have to see this.
allowing white to queen with check.
Yes, this
The
is
game might. I'm not sure what's going on here because the clocks have stopped on my end too. So I have a feeling the game is over.
Yes, I think we just call this one even if it's still going on.
Okay.
There's
That
no
leaves us with this game, and white plays bishop f1. Playing for the win.
good, okay.
So rook c2 check is met by king g3, and the rook at d8 is hanging, and I think black has some difficulties here.
Yes, and I'm wondering bishop c4 may get rid of a defender, because if you can get in bishop c4 and knight to g5, suddenly white has a super strong attack. So that's the threat. And maybe it needs to be prevented with pawn to b5.
Pawn to b5. I didn't even see it. I like it. Well, I'm glad you're keeping track of the chat because all I have is the DGT board.
Okay. Yeah, so our setup's just different from the online live chess.
Yeah,
So.
there'll be changes coming up, and things will get smoother. We had a bit of a rocky start, but we'll get it under control, folks. Let's see. Let's go back to Gaziz's game, and black played king e7, attacking the. So after king e7, okay. Black played king e7. I guess if rook d3, rook takes b2. Although that looks like it might end in a draw too. He plays bishop a4, bishop e4. Maybe white should have played rook d3. What was wrong with rook d? Oh, rook b2 attacks the pawn at g2.
Yeah, but white has no reason to be unhappy with the game continuation. As Christian says you can play pawn to b4, and that a6 pawn is on a white square. Like, as you mentioned, that white king can come up to f2 to e3.
Black has nothing here, I would say. No.
Agreed, agreed. White has as many winning chances as black in this position. So that must be very disappointing having that crushing position and it slipped through your fingers.
Yeah, it might be a difficult adjustment for black to make. Sometimes you have you feel like you have a momentum, and then it's um, yeah. If black had his king on d4, if I'm white, I want to play king up and king to e3 as fast as possible.
Yes, and you know what? I think he should have done that. Now maybe the black king can approach.
Like king e6. Oh, white'll yeah. Maybe king f2 was better. If the black king can get to d4, white's going to be in trouble.
So it's a king to e6, king to f2, king to e5, king to e3.
And white's just in time.
Yeah, that looks solid for white.
Well, white has to find the idea. That's always important. Let's see if this game is going on. Now, this game must be over, obviously, with a win for white.
Yeah, nice game by Theo.
Yeah. And we have this game where black did play b5, Nick, to prevent bishop c4. And the more we look at this, the more we like white's game, but he still needs to find a definite plan of action here.
Yeah, because black does want to, get in a rook c2 check and get some play. So,
all right.
If you were really greedy now and did queen h7 check, king e7, queen h8 check, king e7, queen takes h7.
That would probably be good for white too, I imagine.
Yeah, it's except there's a move rook. Oh no, rook to h8, so that you could come down and take the.
Ah, nice.
But the queen comes back to g7, so not so simple.
And if queen h2, rook h2, king g3, and then you lose the knight at d4 or the rook.
So it must be good for white. It's still very tricky, but the control of those dark squares just gives white the edge. And you could start with king to g3 if that makes you more comfortable.
No, I know. I like greed. I like the greedy approach with queen h8 and queen h7. Maybe black would start running with the king d7 or something. But even though the queen side's not going to be safe either, particularly.
No.
I think black's in trouble maybe.
I mean, there's no immediate knockout. You can't break down the black position by any tactics. But yeah, take a pawn, just keep playing. You get the possibility of a passed h pawn.
Yeah. Okay. And back up to Gazis. And what we said might have come true, did come true with the white king getting to e3 just in time. I think black has sort of shot his bolt here. There's nothing left. Right?
Um, yes.
I mean, black and I mean white's got ideas like maybe bishop f3, right? And bishop f5 g4. I mean that's probably a threat almost. Bishop f3.
yes.
So I think black should have played g5 maybe instead of h5.
So maybe, oh, yeah, G5 and keep that retreat. Yeah, I'd like that better. But I guess this does the job.
Yeah, because white can't. Because black can, if white plays h3, black can play h4. I guess black still has a tiny amount of pressure.
Yes, just some little bit, but start with bishop f3, bishop 2.
But white played a nice move, I guess, h3, because if black doesn't play h4, then white's going to play bishop f3, and black is going to be in some trouble with the d pawn. So h4 is almost forced, but that's not bad necessarily.
It fixes those white pawns on
Yeah.
white squares.
So how about this, Nick? h4, bishop f3, bishop f5, bishop g4.
Yeah, that's a good try.
Just keep, and we could get a draw by repetition.
So you could get a draw by repetition, or after bishop f5, bishop g4, you could go bishop g4, pawn takes g4, rook to b3, and you can still continue playing with the black side.
Is there some kind of mutual Zutzwang going on there?
You have to worry. That's true. It's
Rook d3, rook takes b2, yes, and then black gets into g2. That would be maybe not so good for white.
Again, it must be drawn with precise plays from both sides, but yes, black's still got a couple of things to try.
So after rook b3, what happens after, say, g5, a5, a4?
Yes, interesting, very interesting. And you start.
But I guess black can just go back up on the b file, maybe.
Or well, you could maybe go king to f5 on the g pawn.
Oh, I see, and give up the d pawn.
Well, yeah, although if they take the d pawn, you take the b pawn. Do they try to get your a pawn?
It's making my head hurt, Nick.
Yes. So calculation, but still just little preferable for the black side.
All right, let's move on here to Harris and Wang. Okay, so white seems to have not found much to do here and played a4. Now, the only reason I can think of playing a move like that is to make it even more difficult for black to find refuge for his king. But it seems to me that white's not getting much with this. But
Oh, because then the b3 pawn is weak, and you have to do something about it.
right. Okay, so a6. Black
Yeah,
still wants to keep the bishop out of c4. ab5, ab5, and now b4. So maybe this was the idea. Knight c5. It's not a bad idea. I mean, maybe white, this is another way of sort of strengthening white's game. What do you think?
Well, there's no threats with that. Oh, well, knight c5, as you say, could be good, although
Because then you'd be threatening to take on e6 and take on b5, although I'm not sure that white wants to do that.
yeah, it may be time to go king to g8. Just
Still tough. And maybe still tough for black, I think.
yes. In any case, black is suffering a bit. This is I like it's very patient play by white. You leave the queen on a strong square. You move the other things around.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see how this game. Okay, whoa. So after h4, white played bishop f3, and black just simply took. Oh, yeah. That's what we were looking at. No, we weren't looking at that.
F5 taking seems strange.
We were looking at black playing bishop f5 here, folks. Instead, black takes there, and white takes back, and now there's no g2 pawn as a target.
No g2 pawn as a target. d3 is hanging, so
and black plays rook b3 anyway.
Okay, so
and white naturally plays f4 check. And let's just go back here for 1 second. It looks like white could almost safely play rook takes d3 here too.
Instead of f4 check.
Oh, I see. No. Rook takes king and then king f4. That's too risky, probably.
Well, no, because
b4.
The black king gets trapped on h3. If rook takes d3, rook takes d3, king takes d3, king f4, king to e2, king to g3, you just ignore it. Pawn to b4, king takes h3, king f2, trapping the black king.
Wow, and then making a pawn, queening a pawn
on the other side of the board.
Incredible.
So pawn f4 check. That means that f4 pawn is a target. Maybe there's just nothing that you can do on the black side. f4 check, king to f5, king to f3, and king to e3, and sit there.
Could black have stalemated himself in that other line where he takes on h3?
Maybe he'd get a. Well, you have to get rid of your g pawn.
Right, as well, yeah. Okay, but anyway, he plays f4 check, king f5, and now the Did white get himself into a pickle with this?
Well, the end game becomes quite interesting. So this keeps us going.
So is white losing now, though?
Well, now if you take on d3, king takes f4 is the same position, but you're a pawn up. That's very nice. Possibly white can draw, but that's in black's favor. So if white decides I'm just going to go king f3, king e3, back and forth.
And that's what he does, yeah.
Now you may as well advance that pawn to a4, pawn to a5, pawn to a4. But what possible plan do you have with the
you can go
black?
Back. You can go back with the rook to b8 or something.
Yeah, and you lose the d3 pawn.
Right, and then and then get checked on the 5th row. Okay.
Somehow it must be a draw.
What if black tries g5?
To exchange the pawn?
I guess white takes and then goes up with, well, trying to run white out of moves. That doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, it seems it's a draw, but here is a position where you try to be imaginative on the black side, just thinking any way I can do something, and probably it's pushing the black pawn to a4 and dropping the rook back as you suggested. But yeah, it's possible because afterwards you've got the white king on the third rank, and if you fix that a3 pawn on that square with the pawn, your own pawn on a4, that makes black having to be, or white having to be defensive.
And if white can't take on d3 with either the king or the rook, then he might be in some trouble, because the black rook could go back to d8 and then to d4 or something like that.
It's possible. You have to be very aggressive with the black side. And if pawn to a5, you really don't want to go white pawn to a4 because rook to b4 hits both the a pawn and the f4 pawn. So
White may have made a mistake with f4 check. Right back here, folks. Whoops. Should have played rook d3.
well, yeah, it probably nothing's going to come out of it, but it only gives you losing chances to go pawn to f4.
White is now sort of doomed to a bit of passive defense. Let's see if the other game has been resolved here in any way. Harris versus Wang. Okay, so after b4, black took the bull by the horns and decided to get active with rook check, king g3, and rook d5.
Wow, okay, that's maybe a bit impatient.
And
that's,
white struck with knight c5.
well, it's okay, so if rook to c3 attacking the f3 pawn, then knight e6, knight e6, queen takes c3.
Ooh, that's brutal.
So, but if you just go back, oh, still, it's chances for white. This looks impatient.
Well, what is white's move here? I played king g8.
King g8. Oh, okay. Now you have a possibility for one of bishop takes b5. So if
Knight b5, knight e6.
but bishop takes b5, maybe
Knight e2 check.
Yeah, that could be some trouble. Rook c3 might be a real threat now.
Wait a minute. If bishop takes b5, what about rook takes c5? Rook on 2 takes c5.
Okay, that looks very good also, yes.
Because then b takes c5. Oh, he did it. Now rook 2 c5, b c5, knight b5. His white made a blunder here.
Oh.
As white, I think white just blew it. Yep, that I think bishop e5 is a mistake.
Ah, that's a blunder, yes. Oh, maybe bishop d3 would have been very good.
Bishop
D3.
takes b5 is impulsive. Black has got a nice move here, folks. Even the other rook taking on c5 would probably work.
Yes, but rook on 2 takes c5 is very secure.
Wow. So going back a move here. King g8 was a good move,
Yes,
wasn't
it
it?
was.
It was an excellent move.
But bishop to d3 and bishop to e4, then all the white pieces get on nice squares.
So bishop to d3 here.
Bishop to d3, maybe rook to d2. But, I don't know. Still looks like good chances for white, but
It got tricky.
and what's the time situation? Oh, black was down to 8 minutes.
Black's down 8 minutes. Oh, you're seeing the right time now, huh? That's
Yes,
interesting.
now we're getting the right time. So,
There's something funny about DGT boards there. Let's quickly go back up to this game. Nick, we're getting two interesting games here.
yeah, it's nice at the finish.
Okay, so Black backed up with the rook before playing a5, a4. And white got free with b4. Whew.
Well, he did that without playing pawn to a5, pawn to a4.
Yeah.
Oh, that
And now the rook switched over to the d file, and now king e3, and this must be a draw now. White's playing conservatively. Should white have taken on d3? Maybe.
well, then he would have gotten to the pawn end.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, what would have been wrong with that from white's point of view? He's got the passed b pawn.
Yes, I mean, it's not certainly. Maybe you play the rook ending. Maybe you just go king takes f4.
Okay, all right. Try to get some, yeah, okay. So white plays king back to f3 and now rook e4. I think black is starting to overplay his hand here. Oops.
So probably forced is rook takes d3, rook takes f4.
That's what's happened.
King to e3, and
It's got to be a draw at this point.
probably best play is to repeat the position. Rook f4, rook to e4. So,
All right, let's jump back to this game after king g8, bishop b5. He played rook c3, Nick. He missed rook takes c5.
oh, well, okay. However, rook.
Now knight e6 is met by rook f3 check.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe this is better.
If bishop to d3,
Bishop to d3.
and then rook on 5 takes knight on c5, there's queen takes d4.
or queen d8 check first.
Oh, crushing, crushing. Yes. So, ouch, ouch, what a turnaround.
So after bishop takes b5, black misses. Rook 2 takes c5, which seems to just win here. B takes c5, knight b5 with three pieces, rook and bishop and knight versus queen. Instead, he goes down the wrong, he plays rook c3, and now white can actually play what? Bishop to d3.
You know, Paul, that position after rook takes c5, pawn takes c5,
Okay.
knight
Yeah.
pawn to c6, still a bit of play.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you try to get in, you have your c pawn and you try to get in h4, h5, so wouldn't have been just over.
Yeah, that's true.
But yes.
Black controls the queening square, though.
Oh, yeah, certainly better for black, but still could have been tricks with the...
Instead, rook c and bishop d3 was played.
And what's the time situation now?
5 minutes for black and 14 minutes for white.
Ouch, ouch, ouch. And the bishop is coming to e4.
Or knight e6 is a direct threat, probably. Well, maybe not quite, but black missed a real good shot there, which is surprising. And rook takes c5, rook 5 takes c5 does not work here because of queen d8 check and queen d4 check. Crushing. Possibly black overlooked that.
And now it's very hard to play any move for black. It's the white pieces control all the squares. Yes, big trouble.
That was a big swing. There's some interesting tactics that we're maybe not seeing. Let's jump. Do you mind, Nick? I'll just jump to Gaziz's game, and we're back here. And black is playing for the win with rook c4, I guess. Rook d5 check. And then at the very least, he can play rook a5. This has got to be bad. This has got to be a draw. And somebody could play for the loss here. You can see somebody playing for the loss. So rook a5.
Yeah, I hope it should be rook a5. Rook d3 is just passive. Probably a lot of things draw, but
Black has really messed this up.
well, now it's time to just check with that rook. So,
And if king g4.
and then, oh, he did king to e6. Oh, he didn't go king to f6.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, now if the king were on f6, that white king couldn't get in. So you'd go rook c3 check, king g4, rook to c4 check and make a draw. But now, now it's big trouble for black. Wow, what a...
And the times have equalized. Black has really messed this up here. All right, let's jump down to Harris and Wang. Oh, he blundered into the line we saw, Nick.
Did rook takes c5?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go back, show the moves.
Oh, this is... I was just saying how I thought the games would be a little more precise, but some major things were overlooked here. Black played rook c5 here and overlooked queen d8 check and queen d4 check. And this is resignable.
Yeah.
Amazing. A real turnaround there. Just a few moves ago, Black was winning.
It's funny. It's when players get down on time, we see the blunders, even if it's
Yeah,
started with 2 hours each.
unless it's Gadir.
Who never gets down on
Who
time
never
anyway.
gets down on time. That's right. Yeah.
So let's see if we can find a draw to salvage for Black in this position. It's now a tough situation.
All right. Let's say Black puts things on the third rank, and just yeah, it's just such a ridiculous turnaround. It's hard to believe almost that Black could have done this to himself.
It's, you know, after such a careful play for hours, then you make a quick sort of careless move and just allow something. So
It takes a
now,
lot of discipline to prevent that, but it's the discipline that chess players need to learn how to. Okay, here's an idea, Nick. Rook c6.
and the white king comes to g4.
King, yeah, and then I was going to try g5, but white can play king g5.
Yes.
Black needed to keep the king on f6. King e6 was very careless.
So if I'm trying to draw this position, how about I play pawn to g5 for Black now? And the idea is you have your choice of which pawn to take. If you do rook takes a6, the king comes to f5, and at least you've got kind of an aggressive position.
Yeah, you can go back. Yeah, right. With the possibility of some counterattack from behind with the black rook. Yep. I like your move, Nick.
Well, I think there's problems with anything, but you need an idea for Black. Otherwise, you just go down in this position.
Amazing. All right, let's check out Nicholas Wang's game. Although I'm not. Yeah, I think Black has just been stunned by this. It looks like the game is over because the clocks have stopped.
Yes. A rook down, a pawn down, your rook is practically trapped. The c pawn's about to queen.
Right.
Lines is very appropriate.
And also, there's not that we don't yet have protocols in place in terms of, like that the players are supposed to put the kings in or the kings are supposed to be in the middle of the board in a certain way, on dark squares if it's a black win or something like that. However, it's done, right?
Yes.
How is it done, Nick?
No, normally if white wins, the white king is on e4, the black king on d5. If black wins, the black king on e5, white king on d4.
Okay. And what if it's a draw?
White king on e4, black king on e5.
Ah, okay. Okay.
At least that was the old DGT.
I think that's probably my guess is that still the what's done. So we're left with this final game here after rook a5 with black's time clicking out.
Okay, let's see that ending. I mean, as Christian Clemens says, it's tough to switch to defending. You were trying to win, and suddenly here you see, oh, I've got to defend, and so psychologically, first of all, you have to change your mentality.
And he indeed played g5, rook a6 check, and now it's black's move.
Okay, at least gives you a shot. You know, it's not good, but
so I assume white would want to play rook a5 check and drive the king back to the third rank.
yes, rook a5 check, drive it back to g6, and then rook c5, take some of the punch out of it. But okay, you have to play rook to d4. And yeah, it's terrible,
but maybe there's some chances for black.
Yeah.
And you have to keep fighting.
Well, we've seen the game, change back and forth, so may as well continue. You've come this far.
I've been sitting there with a mask around my chin for the last hour. It's hard to remember that I'm alone in the room here.
Well,
back at the chess club. It's incredible, Nick.
Most all the players have now left and the club is getting empty again. But they had a live Tuesday night marathon.
So rook d4, what's the most precise move for white after rook d4, would you
could
say?
go rook to c3 to stop the checks on the third rank. You're getting ready to
put the rook behind the pawns.
Put the rook behind the pawns. So it must be a winning position for white. But
well, you got to really hand it to Gaziz. He's found some great moves here. This has been a defensive effort by white par excellence.
Well, let's play rook f4 check. Just be a little bit faster.
He played rook d4.
Okay.
Rook f4 check. What would have happened after king e3? Rook f1 or something to go up rook h1? Yes. That would have been an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think that would have been caused him a few more problems. Get that white king away from that h pawn. Now rook c3 is pretty good.
And played. Can black make any problems with his h-pawn for white? Probably not. This is the last game of the round, folks. Probably, although there might be some games on the lower boards. This is board 3. We've seen a big turnaround here with black pressing almost the whole game and white defending like a genius at times, and now neither player wants to leave the building.
So okay, rook c3, rook to d2, and
oh, that's cute.
But I don't know if you go
just b5 right away, or do you play rook b3?
Rook B3.
Rook H2.
Well, or maybe even king to F5 first, so that Rook H2 becomes a real threat. Because if Rook H2, king to
Yeah.
4.
So maybe white should just throw B5 in right away.
Or king E4 might be good. Yes.
I like that too. I'll be right back, folks.
Okay, so down to the wire here. Rook B3, king F5, B5, rook to H2 would be really annoying. So, oh, B5. Now, what if we go rook to B2, pawn to A4, and rook to B4, just trying to win our pawn back. Oh, that becomes very interesting. The line being rook to B2, pawn to A4, rook to B4. Then you could go pawn, rook to A3. And some moves such as king to F5, you go pawn to A5. Rook takes B5, pawn to A6. And rook B8, pawn A7, rook E8. You've trapped the black rook in the corner. And that passive rook would be enough to lose the game for black. That's that takes pretty good play from white to win this ending. Okay. Oh, he directly went rook to A2. So same thing. If rook to B3, rook takes A4, B6, or rook A8. Rook B8, king to G4.
How did the play look up to this point, Nick, since I've been gone?
Both players have been playing the end game very well since that one mistake of black's, king D6, and it's looked like it should be lost, but it's coming down to the wire to just a pawn or two.
So B6, rook A8, B7. That doesn't look very good. Oh, he plays rook F4 check first.
Rook F4 check will help. Rook F4 check, king E3, rook F8, B7, rook B8.
He played king back to G2 for some reason.
Probably is good because the king will come right back to F3. Oh, yeah, but there's things like B7, rook B8, king F3. You can go rook to F8 check, and if king G4, rook F4 would be checkmate. So it can make it a little tricky.
But why can't white just go king E4?
Yeah, so now, oh good, he found that rook check. So king E4, and
what did black accomplish there?
well, you go rook back to B8, and you're trying to get in pawn to G4 and king to G5. Now, okay, you got to go pawn to g4 here.
No, he played king f5 instead, and white checked on the third rank instead of playing rook b4. I'm not understanding some of this, Nick.
Well, okay, now the king can come to c6, and now I think you got to go pawn to g4. Oh, wait, what did he do? Yes. Now, pawn to g4, there's rook f5 check. Ouch,
Yeah.
ouch, ouch.
Yeah, and he found it.
So, it's imprecise play in the end. I think it was but he was down. He was down too.
A lot to learn from this endgame for both players, I think. An incredible defensive effort. I think the game is over. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was a comeback, well played ending
Amazing.
by White there. That was
A game with some ups and downs.
yeah. Well,
White's stout defense turned the tables, and quite a fighting game. A fitting end to the first round of the Tuesday night marathon back at the club.
you look at a position where it looked like White would almost resign.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kept his head, kept cool, and hung in there.
Well, we're about to stop the stream, I think. Congratulations to everybody who participated in this incredible event and showed the confidence to show up and take their lumps or give their lumps. And that includes me, and I'm going to say goodnight. And I think you'll be joined by we'll join you next week. We'll see you next week, everybody, for the Tuesday night marathon round 2.